Mary LaHammer here from Twin Cities PBS with Almanac and the story behind the story on deadline week. And that means that bills need to get out of committees, and boy, were committees busy at the Capitol this week. Also, the rotunda was filled with rally after rally, lots of press conferences, lots of events, very, very busy. Lawmakers are ready for their traditional winter or spring or Easter or Passover, whatever break you want to call it, kind of a spring break for them to go home and really meet with constituents, just take a little breather and get back to the final part of session before session concludes in May. And my story is about what is and isn't making it to the finish line this week. And one freshman gets to talk about a bill that will be one of the first to make it to the governor's desk. Not the biggest bill, you'll see in a moment. It's about school bus safety, but interesting because it is a freshman and he gets to say he is the first freshman to have a bill pass unanimously, 100% support in the House and Senate, and one of the first. We don't know for sure if it'll be the first one to reach the governor's desk. We don't know the timing on that, but interesting. State Representative Keith Allen, someone I got to know first actually from Farm Connections. I've done a lot of work over the years with both the Farmers Union and the Farm Bureau, so we both knew of each other from years in the Farm Bureau and farm life. My family still owns our family farm, and I love agriculture and rural issues, so I knew him from that world. And we got to know each other through the freshman interviews. Last year on Almanac at the Capitol, each week I would feature a freshman and kind of tell their story, how they got into politics, why they ran for office. This year we're featuring retiring lawmakers doing that. So it's kind of an interesting feature we do each week. So this year I've heard from Representative Allen in his office a couple times on what he's working for. I always tell the freshmen, stay in touch. Let me know what's going on. Well, he actually did. And he reached out this week to say, hey, I think I might have the first or one of the first bills to be signed into law this year. And so you'll hear about that in just a moment. But interesting person. He was born in Rochester, Minnesota, graduated from Dover Yoda, I think that's how you say it, and graduated from Hawkeye Community College, earned a degree in agriculture, makes a lot of sense, and then earned another degree in animal science at the University of Minnesota, also attended Southwest Minnesota State, and participated in the Minnesota Agriculture and Rural Leadership Program. Marl, the really well-known program in that. And so far in the legislature, last year he had what was known as the Got Milk Bill, and that was a cost-saving measure designed to reduce food waste in schools and protect taxpayer dollars. That's how he described it. It would allow students to just take a milk carton at school without taking an entire meal. Some people just wanted those little milk cartons. And so that was one of his bills. And you'll see he's kind of a no-nonsense, really straightforward lawmaker. And he's really excited to get what could be one of the first bills to the governor's desk. A lot of really interesting things did and didn't make it. You'll see kind of this mad rush through committee, and one of the most notable bills that is now alive after suffering tie vote after tie vote after tie vote, which is happening because, again, the House is tied. I know we see reporting of different media outlets referring to a Republican-controlled House, and yes, there is a Republican speaker, and yes, there is one committee, the Fraud Committee, that does have a Republican chair, but still the House is tied. And so the House has been struggling to move bills along because many, many measures are suffering from tie votes, and that does not advance a measure. And finally, this week on Almanac at the Capitol, we featured the state government co-chairs, Representative Nash and Representative Cleavorn, really a kind of a fun duo, and they told the backstory of how they got the Office of Inspector General bill unstuck. So take a look at that and much more, and I'll come back and talk to you some more about what's ahead in the legislature.
There have been 67 ayes and 0 nays. The bill is passed and its title agreed to.
The Senate swiftly followed the House.
I was one of the authors of the law that created this holiday.
Chavez was a monster, and this repeal is long overdue.
There being 129 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to.
As lawmakers voted overwhelmingly to end Cesar Chavez Day, after investigations revealed years of sexual abuse.
As a proud Mexican American who's standing here as a survivor in solidarity, but also as a child who was born in secret, I know what it is like to have that unbearable weight of the silence. This is a sickness and we have to take it down.
It was devastating. I was on the floor last week, and I gathered around my colleagues that are here today and my leader. I went right to him and said, I want to do this.
It's not just about removing that name now, but it's that what does community feel is the best way to honor that, and that's when the opportunity to hold space for what the movement has achieved in what we call it next.
The House State Government Committee revived the long-awaited Inspector General bill.
Fraud in any form remains unacceptable, and I remain committed to taking appropriate action to address it here in Minnesota.
What happened behind the scenes to finally get that Inspector General bill going?
Did we make news? Apparently we made news.
Yes, you did.
So
you did.
I think what we're seeing is, speaking for me, deadlines are real, and the bill has to get moving. The working group has been moving things through as well, but I think that Republicans have been saying this is so important.
If you're going to start a new agency and you want it to be successful, you have to make sure that it's really functional. And always in legislation, the devil's in the details. So we want accountability, we want transparency, and we want it to really function and do its job. Jim and I both agree on the independence issue of that office.
The governor, in his final session, was reflective, speaking to the Farm Bureau at the Capitol.
As I step away and go do something else, I guess my biggest disappointment has been this idea that there's a division amongst an urban area and the rural areas. We're going to have to figure this out. We all exist in this together. We all benefit from a diverse economy in this state.
I think that's something that all legislators actually wrestle with on a regular basis, especially those of us that are from rural communities, is were we able to bridge that divide between rural and urban to help them understand kind of the complexities of what's happening in ag?
This freshman Republican farmer may have one of the first bills to reach the governor's desk this session.
It's a school bus bill. What we all heard about this summer, and it came out of the city of Faribault, where there was people driving through stop arms that weren't fully extended. We now that we have a lot of school buses with cameras on them, lawyers were able to go back, look at the cameras, and say the arms weren't fully extended.
How many votes in both chambers?
We got 100% in both chambers.
Oof. And maybe first to the governor's desk, you're kind of waiting to see?
I'm waiting to see. There was another bill that maybe beat me by like an hour or so, but being the only freshman right now with 100% voting record on both Senate and House, I'm going to take that as a win. Where we can find compromise, where we can find agreement, let's show Minnesota we can work. And it's about time we do that. That's what our constituents sent us here to be able to do on a regular basis. And you know what? It's about time we show that we can do it and we can actually act like adults.
It's do or die time for bills on deadline week.
Let's just say nothing around here is ever really fully dead. It's only maybe mostly dead.
Democrats in the House could not get the votes on gun control or immigration action accountability.
We are not deterred, and this is not over. I have been saying for months now that House DFLers will use every tool in the toolbox.
Would have just taken one vote to advance the bill further. And not a single Republican was willing to do that.
Thank you for taking your time to come to the Capitol to visit with legislators and to make sure that we hear what is important to you.
Legislative action heated up with rallies and crowds converging at the Capitol. With deadlines looming, even the Senate president saw his business recovery bill defeated.
Members, just so you know that we will not have another bill that comes up. This will be it.
And the women of the Senate made history before they went home.
It is time for us to make space in this place for new parents.
My 7-month-old Leo and I were escorted off the Senate floor. And thanks to these amazing moms who are behind me, we worked to change the rules.
Senator Umu Verbatim made a great point. She said, you know, when you were speaking up again about challenges, you were the only one. Now there are so many other young parents and so many more mothers that are of childbearing years. And so I think it just kind of had to be the right time, right place, right environment.
And a little more now on the assessment of where things are at and what's ahead. Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy did a briefing before going home for the break, and she described so far in the Senate a fast-paced, intense, challenging environment. She said that they are determined to get that Inspector General bill on the governor's desk. Of course, the Senate already passed it last year. She said she was grateful that the House bill is moving now. You got to see their House state government co-chairs, Nash and Cleavorn, on Almanac at the Capitol. I urge you to watch the whole interview if you didn't see it. It's a fun dynamic. I said they almost kind of have a sibling relationship where they kind of jab at each other, but really get along and have a great dynamic and are responsible for getting that bill moving again in the House, although it's likely to be changed, so it might need to go back to the Senate and be changed. They also talked about how that committee's moving through several bills to honor former Speaker Melissa Hortman, and they both sides of the aisle talked about their great appreciation for the former Speaker. Also, Senator Murphy talked about her efforts to make life more affordable and that their caucus intends to address immigration action bills to prohibit masks from federal agents and require federal agents to render aid, allow the BCA to investigate and have to cooperate with federal officers. Also, gun violence bills, they want to get those moving. And their gun violence bills will address school safety and mental health, also ban high-capacity magazines. She said she's very glad for the break and has town halls planned in Rochester and Duluth. She said, quote, "This moment in America and Minnesota, it's important to stay in touch and respond to people who are so invested in Minnesota." She also said when they come back, they're going to have to address Capitol security and the Senate building, the increasing costs. There's a great number of new staffers working in security. You will see police officers, state troopers, new presence, not just the weapon screenings, but a lot of new personnel. She also said when they come back, they're going to have to address some of the healthcare challenges in the state. HCMC, that's Hennepin County Medical Center, she said it's a statewide asset and it is really financially struggling right now, but she also said many hospitals are hurting statewide and that the legislature needs to take some short-term and long-term steps and solutions to stabilize health care. The difference between the House and the Senate, she pointed out the House and Senate are moving at a different pace. And of course, because the Senate has a one-vote majority for Democrats and the House is tied. So she also talked about the challenges of not having a corresponding partner in the House. She said it's an uneven path. People in the House are talking about the fact that there's not going to be omnibus bills, no big, huge policy or budget bills, maybe minibus, not omnibus bills, I'm hearing, and really an emphasis on standalone bills that moved really separately, standalone small bills. I'm hearing an emphasis on that. Other interesting thing is Senator Murphy talked about this is an angry period of time. She said people have been through a lot and we don't talk about it much. An angry moment we saw in committee, you saw that earlier in the piece, Senator Bobby Joe Champion, president and chair, had his bill fail in his very own committee. And he said, that's it, forget it. And she said, we'll contemplate about what to do next. She said that really ended in a rough way. Folks in the media always ask about gambling bills, sports betting. Those might still be dealt with. She said, remember, there's a lot of gambling bills, not just sports betting, but prediction markets, sweepstakes, raffles. That was brought up. Star Tribune had a really big story about threats, and she said, yes, every week a member of the Senate, Republican, Democrat, both sides of the aisle will share a threat. Social media, at their homes. She definitely feels a responsibility for her members, but also balancing First Amendment rights versus threats. One of the quotes she said was, quote, that handshake agreement after June 14th to rein it in is not working. That's after the shootings of 2 members of the legislature. So she definitely also wants to consider, weapons in the Capitol and how to handle that. And coming up this weekend, No Kings Rally in Minnesota is thought to be one of the largest. Bruce Springsteen is coming, Joan Baez, Bernie Sanders. We did know that Peggy Flanagan was coming, and now Governor Tim Walz is coming. Expecting really big crowds in Minnesota for that. And then the legislature will be on break, as will I, and we'll be back on Almanac and Almanac at the Capitol after that.